Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mace. I'm coming to you from Canada, in British Columbia to be specific. I'm out here on the west coast. Everything is alright. Everything's fine right now. That said, the world is going kind of crazy because of a certain world leader. And I'm sure none of us in our travels throughout our lives have ever witnessed an arrogant or entitled American abroad. A tourist so vile that you just are flabbergasted. I'm sure none of us have ever seen that before. And yes, these type of people, entitled, arrogant, selfish, these type of people, they can come from anywhere, sure. But it seems to be a higher per capita amount of them in the United States, as well as the United States is the country that's making a lot of turmoil in the world right now. So it's just seemingly a good time to ridicule the states, their president, and the entire foreign policy, domestic policy, political apparatus. The American dream. It's simply a nightmare. All right, I got a couple stories for you guys. Let's hop into them. Hope everyone's doing good. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Love hearing from you guys. It's really interesting to hear different perspectives on different things, and I appreciate it. So, all of that said, let's get into it. So, entitled tourist gets mad because I didn't care she was American. All right, let's get to a little bit of context, details on this one. My dad runs a local tourist group in my town, and on the weekends I usually help out if I'm not doing anything. My job is to mainly interact with customers and answer questions and explain the local rules and just generally make sure they don't do anything stupid that will upset the locals. I quite like talking to the people while we travel to a destination. So anyways, last weekend, I went with my dad to help. We stopped at the hostel to pick up our group, and I was helping the people on the bus, and this lady and her family stepped forward. The Americans. And I greeted them, and the lady said, "We are from the United States of America." The way she announced it, it was like she expected me to clap or get excited, but I just said, "That's cool," and asked her to please get on the bus. She seemed offended, but didn't say anything, and when everyone was seated, we left. This lady, the American, proceeded to brag loudly about America and why it's better than my country, and kept looking at me whenever she made a comment. Okay, so American obnoxious behavior is coming into play, seemingly as soon as this woman came on the bus. And I've told this story in prior videos, but I saw an American family in Mexico when we were there one time, and they were literally just a satire, a parody. It was a parody skit, southern accents, wearing football jerseys, yelling at a Mexican bus driver because he didn't speak English. Really. A Mexican bus driver didn't speak English in Mexico. And this American family was irate and just screaming at this guy. It was horrific. Back to our American lady. She was making everyone uncomfortable. I just decided to ignore her and speak to the others. One of her kids apologized for her obnoxious behavior. Okay, somebody has some integrity. When she was distracted at a site we were at, it's terrible when a kid has to apologize for a grown adult's horrible behavior. Agreed. You'll actually see this happen quite often with parents and kids, and I feel pretty bad for the kids because they got to try to deal with that really obnoxious, horrible parent for their whole lives. The rest of the day went good, with her occasionally saying something about America, but she went quiet towards the end. I guess she realized I really did not care. Or maybe it's because the others in the group, including her own family and fellow Americans, were avoiding her and looked embarrassed to be with her. But yeah, that's my entitled story. Side note, I'm not hating on American tourists. Most are quite respectful. Loud, but respectful. Edit. Guys, I'm getting DMs asking if I can be their tour guide in Europe. I'm flattered, but I'm not in Europe. I wouldn't make a good tour guide in a European country since I'll be a tourist myself. I am in New Zealand, but if you're interested in visiting New Zealand and in my area, it would be a pleasure to show you around my beautiful country. So yeah, this story encapsulates a certain American ignorance and arrogance pretty well. You know, this person announcing themselves as an American. Number one, why would you want to do that? Americans aren't necessarily perceived really well right now around the world. And who does that? Who just announces where they're from immediately to strangers on a tourism or a bus tour? Craziness, but very par for the course. Very, very relatable in terms of stories that I've experienced and witnessed in my travels. So let's get to the next one. Entitled tourists angry for not speaking English. All right, here we go again. It's like deja vu. It was Monday morning, and I had some errands to run. The weather was hot, so I decided to get an iced beverage at Starbucks. Well, I was thinking what to order. I don't visit Starbucks often, so I don't know the menu. I can relate. I had no idea what to order at Starbucks. The waiter asked me what I would like in our language. Mind you, we are in Europe, not the US. Okay, which country in Europe? I'm curious what language they're speaking. I told them what I wanted, and they started making my drink. Behind me, there was a couple in their 50s. Boomers. You could tell they were American tourists, and they seemed impatient to order. You could tell they were American tourists. I want some more details around that. And they seemed impatient to order. To be fair, it was pretty hot outside. The waiter didn't really look at them. As I said, I could tell they were tourists, and asked them in our language, not in English, about their order. They were livid. Here we go. This is a perfect encapsulation of what we spoke about earlier and my story of the American family on the bus in Mexico. You're in a foreign country and you are livid that they don't speak your language. Insanity. So the woman told him that this is Starbucks and everyone should speak English. This is a Starbucks. Everyone should speak English. They also said they could not stand hearing us anymore. She pointed at me and him. The waiter started laughing nervously and I was petrified. After that, they ordered, took their drinks, and left. My friend now say that I should have stood up for him. This was last month, but I still feel bad. Yeah, you know, you could have maybe said something to this couple, but at the same time, not everybody is socially or comfortable in that type of social confrontation. I feel like Americans and conflict is something that they do pretty well. You know, they seemingly, especially these entitled, arrogant, just really obnoxious people, they thrive on conflict. And I think I figured it out. I distilled an idea that makes, you know, everything makes sense now. The United States of America as a whole is the personification of a Karen. The whole country, the U.S., is a Karen. There you go. Got him. All right. Let's see what else we got. Are Americans always so over-entitled? American family at DMZ tour bothered the hell out of the South Korean guide. DMZ tour, I don't know what that is. Today we went for our DMZ tour. I guess it's in South Korea though. This was the American family. There was this American family. Middle-aged man, skinny fat, must be 50, his wife and daughter, sitting right in front of us. The trip started at 7 a.m. from Myeongdong Station. We randomly just sat behind them as most of the other seats were occupied. Right from the very beginning, I just somehow knew that we should avoid talking to them. You just feel this negative vibe somehow. They were very loud in the bus, because of which we can all hear what they were saying. I was able to hear many sentences and phrases. They were loudly speaking with each other, most of which was about the man saying about our trip and tour guide as, quote, I don't want them to tell me how to do XYZ, whatever. Afterwards, the man kept on complaining about the air conditioning and how it is so hot. The tour guide lady ensured that the AC was on, but apparently it got switched off, hence the complaining became louder and louder for the complete trip. You have to understand that it was not hot at all, and at least 15 people were sitting behind and ahead of them from at least 8 different nationalities. The sad part is that it is always Americans. Mostly middle-aged men dressed in some worn-down athleisure. Yeah. I have seen it many times. I think a really funny story, at least from recent times, or at least a funny photo, is Americans walking around in Mexico on vacation wearing mega hats and mega gear. Just stunningly. All right. Entitled American tourists' parents demanded free tickets to the zoo because they knowingly arrived at closing time and accused us of ruining their children's vacation. Buckle up, folks, because this is going to be a ride. Since this summer, I started working at the most popular zoo in my country in our capital city. A little bit of the background information about the zoo. We have this separate museum area that is part of the zoo's company, but not part of the actual zoo itself, and you have to buy separate tickets for that museum visit. It closes at 5 p.m. We also have a planetarium, which is inside the zoo, which you can visit for free. There's a show or / movie about the universe every hour that lasts 30 minutes. The zoo closes at 6 during normal weekdays, and so the final planetarium show starts at 5 p.m., ending at 5:30 p.m., so the visitors still have 30 minutes left to leave the zoo. So, this American family, which consisted of a mother, a father, and 2 very loud young boys, bought tickets for the zoo and for the museum at 3 p.m. They first wanted to visit the zoo, and we told them the museum closes at 5, so we recommended they visit the museum first. But the boys were screaming that they wanted to see the animals, so they insisted they'd visit the zoo first, and so they did. We had also told them about the planetarium shows and how the final one is at 5 p.m. Then, at 4:45 p.m., they suddenly rush into the museum and demand to be let in, despite the fact that we actually don't let people into the museum anymore after 4:30 p.m. They yelled at the museum staff that they had bought tickets and had a right to be let in. And when the museum staff still told them that they should have visited earlier and that they were already closing down, the parents literally told their kids to run into the museum. So they got in, and the museum staff had to let the parents in as well. So the museum staff let them in under the pretense that they really had to leave at 5 p.m., 15 minutes later. The staff walks up to the family and tells them that they're closed now and that they had to leave. They threw a fit and refused to leave. Rabble, 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 rabble. They took our guns. They took our museum time. Security had to come in to literally escort them out of the premise, and they were yelling and cursing at the security guy the entire time. So, again, same story we've heard time and time again. Same song and dance. Same people. I was working the cash register / administration desk at the time, and the couple walked up to the office and angrily demanded that they be given free tickets for the museum for the next day because they, quote, didn't get their money's worth because they couldn't see everything of the museum in 15 minutes. So this is a classic narcissistic tendency. They were the ones that made the mistake. It was their fault, and yet they still blame everybody. So it's a huge lack of accountability combined with a searing arrogance. Even though they knew the museum would close at 5, and they knowingly only went in at 4:45. They threatened to sue us, classic American tactic. If we didn't give them free tickets, my manager eventually did agree to give them the free tickets for just the museum for the following day. So the family left, and we thought that was the end of it. Boy, oh boy, were we wrong. Oh, wow. Definitely buckle in. 10 minutes later, they came back, angry again because they missed the final show of the planetarium since it was now 5:20. Again, the planetarium and all its shows are for free. They didn't pay for that. That is included in the zoo ticket. We told them that. And reminded them that we had told them that the final show would be at 5. And still, they threw another temper tantrum and then demanded that they be given free zoo tickets again, as well, for the next day. Along with the free museum ticket we already had agreed to give them because they claimed they also, quote, didn't get their money's worth because they missed all the planetarium shows, which they knew the final time of. So they knew about the museum closing at 5, and they still decided to only arrive at 4:45. They also knew that the final planetarium show would start at 5 and didn't go to any earlier ones either. This was all their own doing, and still they demanded that we give them free tickets for their lack of time management. So it's a selfishness. It's a lack of it's total inconsiderate behavior. My manager thankfully didn't put up with their final request and told them that We could not give them free zoo tickets because they missed a free event, especially since they knew about the final showtime. The couple, of course, threw a temper tantrum again and cursed at us, threatening to sue us. Good luck doing that in a country where lawsuits like that literally never happen. They demanded to speak to the manager. Karens. And my team manager dropped the biggest "I am the manager" that I've ever witnessed. I was just listening to it all behind my cash register with a dropped jaw. The children started crying, and the couple accused us of making them cry and ruining their vacation. They literally said, "You just ruined the vacation of our children." They also accused us of horrible customer service and that we weren't helping them at all, even though we had literally just given them free tickets to the museum. No matter how many concessions you make, no matter how much assistance and help you give this type of person, they will still complain. They're inconsiderate, they're not kind, and they're incredibly ungrateful. So, we ended up having to call security again to escort the family out of the zoo, and my team manager ended up revoking their free ticket for the museum the next day as well for how incredibly rude they were. Good on her. She's an awesome manager. Too long didn't read. American tourists that visited zoo tried to visit the museum area 15 minutes before closing time, then demanded free tickets for the museum because it closed after those 15 minutes, then demanded free tickets for the entire zoo as well because they missed a free planetarium show. All the while knowing about all the closing times and final show times. So I think, in conclusion, these 4 stories paint a picture that we've seen time and time again. And Americans, get your shit together. And yeah, people from all different countries can act obnoxious and be horrible. But right now, it's more fun to just rip on Donnie Boy, Donnie Diaper. It's interesting watching the Epstein War, Iran War. All right, see you on the next one.